Hello and welcome to Andy Explains It All. I am Andy Asimakis, and with me is Stephen Fontana. And today, he just might learn something. For those who are new to Andy Explains It All, this is a show where I, the smartiest smarty pants idiot of the two, explain something with great passion to Steve, the dumbest idiot. This show,
Accurate.
very accurate. This show posts each and every Friday. Oh, sorry, every other Friday.
Yes,
Got
indeed.
that there for your listening pleasure on your podcast service of choice, including Spotify and iHeartRadio. Also, you can find this great show on YouTube and our website, dualscreens.com. Now, if you like this show, which I hope you will, please check out our flagship series, the Dual Screens Gamescast and the Dual Screens Podcast, which post each Monday and Thursday, respectively. Now, you can support these great shows on Patreon by going to patreon.com/NDS podcast, just like our producer, Mr. Colton, the apprentice, Nestler. Colton, thank you for your support as always. And those who are out there, for as little as $1, you could save a starving puppy in Africa, or you can support this great podcast. For any feedback, questions, concerns, complaints, feel free to email
Or
us at-
suggestions for Andy Explains It
Sure.
All.
or suggestions for this great show. We have email, and that's feedback@ndspodcast.com. Now, on to this great show.
Oh, I am so ready to learn, Andy.
Steven,
I am ready
you
to
picked a great topic
I
this week.
did.
I feel. See, now, we did 2 weeks ago, we did Stephen King, which I was a little thrown off by because it was a human being with a large body of work.
Right. Right.
Then when I saw this week's topic, I was like, oh, this seems like it's easy, but then there's a lot of stuff.
There's so much.
So
stuff.
I feel I have to make some asterisks as we go along.
Razzmatazes.
I
Got it.
gotta preface this a little bit, but before we do so, lay out for our audience today's topic and why you chose it.
Indeed. Indeed. Today's topic is Metal Gear. Now, you might be wondering, do you mean Metal Gear Solid? Do you mean just the Metal Gear series? I mean anything that has the words metal and gear in it. No, together. So my knowledge of the Metal Gear series starts with the first one I played, which was Metal Gear Solid. Metal Gear Solid 2, Metal Gear Solid 3, and Metal Gear Solid 4. I have not played any other Metal Gear Solid game. I didn't play 5. I didn't play Peace Walker. I didn't play Portable Ops 1 or 2. I didn't play...
Just the one.
One of them was 2. One of them has 2.
No, it was Portable Ops.
Acid. It was Acid. Acid 1 and 2.
Acid.
Acid 1 and 2. Didn't play any of those. Didn't play Ground Zero, although I messed with Ground Zeroes. Didn't like it, really. So I still consider Metal Gear Solid my second favorite video game series of all time. It was first for a very long time until 5. Now, the reason why I kind of fell off that and why I didn't play games like Peace Walker and Portable Ops were I don't like being graded and like
Are
it's
you a bad test taker? Just a side note. I'm just curious.
No, I'm actually a pretty good one.
Do you think it like hinders your experience if you get like a C ranking in a mission? Like, well, I feel like I just suck at this game. I should just stop playing. Is that what you feel like?
It's a little bit of both. So I don't like when, for example, it doesn't bother me in Death Stranding. And the reason why it doesn't bother me in Death Stranding is because I feel like it makes sense to be graded on something.
Right, because you're delivering a physical package that has wear and tear. If it looks like shit, then you just get yelled at by people.
It makes sense in the world. To me, it doesn't make sense in a Metal Gear game because those games are cinematic adventures that are about, infiltration, all this stuff. And then they made 5 a lot like Peace Walker in that it's mostly about recruiting people and having this base building mechanic and all of that stuff. appeals to me 0%. That is not why I play Metal Gear. I play Metal Gear for the cinematic cutscenes, the cool stealth, the boss fights, the action, and the linear storytelling.
You chose the best game to avoid, I think. You made a smart choice. And once you get to the plot in 5, you're going to be even more relieved as to what happened in that game. Like, okay,
every single thing that I saw of 5 turned me off to it. Every single thing. I don't like the idea of going in, doing something, getting to the next part, and then you get in a helicopter and leave.
Right.
And then you pick your next... No, that's not
Metal Gear. It seemed very anti-Metal Gear.
It was very anti-Metal Gear. And I feel like that wasn't necessarily on like the goal of the game, but then it kind of became that over time. But I'll leave that up to you.
Well, here's a fun fact, just to begin with this. Mm-hmm. There was an actual anti-Metal Gear, and that's Metal Gear Ray. Was designed to be an anti-Metal Gear device. Anyway, so
and that was Metal Gear from the second Metal Gear Solid,
Sons of Liberty, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
See, I remember things.
You do. So why did you choose it though?
I chose it because in order for me to say that it is my second favorite video game franchise of all time, I feel like I should know more of what I actually played because I kind of remember nothing.
Okay.
I feel like as much as those games blew me away, I haven't retained anything that I played.
Okay.
And I feel like the timelines are screwed up in my head. Who's, Liquid Ocelot, Revolver Ocelot, who's who, completely
That's
lost.
A lot.
Big boss.
It's a lot to unpack. I
believe there's another big boss. There's like 2 big bosses.
We're gonna get to all that. Is
Kiefer Sutherland one of big bosses? Is he a big boss?
Big boss
from Metal Gear, not Metal Gear Solid. It's very.
Man, I should have worn an eye patch for this podcast. I was doing this the whole time. I was covering an eye. Is that good? Is that effective?
Probably doesn't really affect your. Does it affect your depth perception?
Slightly. So that's a great way to start off. I think that's a great reason as to why you chose this franchise. It is, sure. I think I've played a more diverse catalog of games than you have. So I can't peg it down as it's my top 1 or my number 2. It's definitely in my top 5 all-time favorite franchises. But I can't put a number to it. It's just it's among my favorites ever.
Okay.
So before we begin with what Metal Gear is, a few notes here is I won't go into Acid because Acid is a side story and it is like being on an acid trip and it's a card game.
That's the card game.
So, for better or worse, it's really just a card game. And those plots are so bonkers that it's like a whole podcast for each to discuss, I feel. So we're going to ignore those. We're going to ignore Portable Ops because I think it doesn't give... Well, here's what we'll do. We're going to stick to the originals. We'll do Metal Gear 2. I may throw some Snake's Revenge in there for fuck of it. Because fuck all.
Okay.
Because why not?
Okay.
As a little wild card, if you were.
Sure.
And the 5 Solid series. The 5 games in the Solid franchise. I think that should be good. We're not doing the Game Boy spin-off. We're not doing Revengeance starring Raiden. We're not doing Survive. Because I'd rather kill myself and talk about Metal Gear Survive. Understood. That doesn't exist as far as I'm concerned.
Sure.
So before I launch into the question that is, what is Metal Gear? Because that's how we always start off these podcasts.
Oh, yeah.
I have some notes I want to share with you.
Okay.
Just
little notes.
Short notes, some thoughts as to what is Metal Gear. Metal Gear is the future and the past and the present.
Mm-hmm.
Metal Gear is just a box. Metal Gear is surveillance camera. Metal Gear is the Lale Lule Low. Metal Gear is Fox Die. And Fox Die is, of course, Siphon Filter, for those who are wondering.
Right.
Metal Gear is a simulation. Metal Gear is who? And finally, Metal Gear, in my opinion, is the exclamation point on the sentence, I love video games. That's Metal Gear in a nutshell.
Wow.
Let's get to the yes. So wasn't that great? Wasn't that amazing?
Excellent opening arguments. I like it.
So let's go back to when a young me was first introduced to Metal Gear. And if I get a little bit teary-eyed, it involves my late father, which plays a huge role in Metal Gear, of the son-father relationship. It's all oh, there was one last thing. Metal Gear is the Clone Wars. Is one last note.
Also, yes, accurate, apropos.
So my dad wasn't a fan of video games, much like my mother was, but he knew how much we loved them. And one night at the restaurant he used to work at, a coworker gave him a bag full of NES games, which had Zelda, the first Zelda game, Duck Hunt, Wild Gunman. It had the Mario Duck Hunt combo, which you already own, and then them both games separately. I was like, Dad, can you at least look at these things? You didn't pay for this, right? You bought the same game like twice, times 2. And so I had in my house 3 copies of Mario Brothers and Duck Hunt.
Sure.
Blades of Steel, which I think is the only sports game I would play aside from an NBA Jam or an NFL Blitz or a Mutant Football League, kind of zany off the wall. It's the most serious sports game I'll play. Just so you know, if I'm ever going to play it one day, I'm down for
Understood.
that. I'm not good, but I still love it. And there's a little game called Metal Gear with a cover that looked a lot like the Terminator for some reason. So this little game we were very enamored by, my brother and I, and we didn't quite get that stealth was a thing. Like, we'd understand why we would alert dogs, why we would alert guards. It took a while for that connection to be made. Like, oh, you have to be quiet and sneaky in this game, and there's cameras and other things. But we caught on eventually.
Surveillance cameras.
Exactly. And Metal Gear was the reason why we chose to buy a PS1 over an N64 growing up.
Good choice.
Because it was either between Metal Gear Solid or Ocarina of Time. And my brother and I were, listen, we love Zelda, but we haven't played Metal Gear for a long time since we were kids. And now there's a whole new game. It's like all these funky 3D polygon models, and it looked amazing. And it had voice acting. It looked really good. So we made the wise choice, I feel. So that's some background on how I discovered Metal Gear. And, if it wasn't for my dad, I'd probably be like you and it was discovered like later on in life when Solid came out on the PS1. But I have a leg up in this conversation. Fortunately for you, you'll learn more today, more than you thought you would.
Can't wait.
So let's go. I don't want to tackle this as a chronological sort of storytelling. I feel I can get lost in that. So I think I'm just going to go from order of release, and we'll fill in the blanks and we'll work our way back when we need to.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Right. So the first Metal Gear game stars Solid Snake with no voice actor. He's just little 8-bit sprites.
Mm-hmm.
And he's given the mission that there's a transmission that this Metal Gear is active. And Gray Fox, who's a part of Foxhound, the unit that Snake is a part of, has gone missing. So Snake is given a mission by Big Boss to infiltrate Outer Heaven, which is a terrorist militia back then before it evolved into what it was, we thought it was, and to rescue Gray Fox and destroy Metal Gear. That's like your main objectives. And again, if I'm a little bit hazy, I haven't played these games in a long time. I'm pretty sure I'm not getting it exactly right. But I thought, let me go into this from memory and not just read a bunch of shit.
Interesting strategy.
Right. because remember, you might learn something. You might unlearn
Right.
things and be dumber. You might be a dumber idiot when this is done. Who knows?
Right.
So, for some reason, Big Boss sends the very green, very rookie Solid Snake on this very critical, intense mission. And, it's the NES days. There's not a lot of plot. There's the transmissions and what then was the codec conversations existed.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But the basic gist was that Big Boss was the leader of Outer Heaven the whole time, and he sent in Snake thinking he would fail the mission.
Right.
Which is odd when you start to more facts about who Big Boss is.
And yeah,
It's really bizarre to me how that all plays out. But again, Kojima's writing was very simplistic back then, and then it just evolves into utter batshit nonsense.
Now, do you think he was called Big Boss because he was just literally trying to say, "Oh, he's not. He's like the biggest boss. Like he's like the top guy." And then they were like,
I mean, I'm
Big
pretty
Boss.
sure. Again, it's hard to tell because Kojima, he loves to retcon and add things after the fact, and we're given a reason why he's called Big Boss later on in the franchise. But I think it just sounded cool. He's the big boss, and it's a term.
Right.
He's the big boss. That's a big
Right.
boss right there.
Right.
Like, you know your boss? That's the big boss. He's the
He's the
boss
biggest
to
boss.
end all bosses. So Snake manages to destroy Metal Gear in the Japanese version anyway. We got the lousy use your explosive, I think it was, to destroy a supercomputer, which I think was the AI or controlled Metal Gear, so you shut it down. But you never actually fought Metal Gear in the NES version of the game, which was always a letdown to my brother and I.
You do fight a tank.
You fight a tank, yes.
You need to use the landmines on them.
It's very true, which you can do in all of 5 seconds. You stay in the corner.
11 of them.
No. And 25 plastic explosives for the supercomputer.
Interesting.
So, how you defeat Big Boss with the remote control missile. That's it, Big Boss. So you kill Big Boss, destroy Metal Gear. All's well that ends well. Great job, Snake. Oh, and you saved Gray Fox too. Yay, you saved Gray Fox.
You did it.
You did it. So that's how essentially part 1 kind of is. It's a very simple story, but again, they add layers to it later on. So some years later, my brother came across a chance to purchase 2 games from a friend of his. Apparently, he was selling off all his Ultra labeled games for some reason, and he bought Super C and this game called Snake's Revenge. And he was like, wait a minute, is this a Metal Gear game? Because it doesn't say Metal Gear on the cover. It's just called Snake's Revenge.
Mm-hmm.
It's not called like Metal Gear. It's like how Zelda 2 was called Legend of Zelda 2 Link's Adventure.
Mm-hmm.
Or sorry, Link's Adventure Legend of Zelda 2.
Yeah, that's what it's called.
This was just called Snake's Revenge. But there's a picture of a Metal Gear on the cover art. And that's how he knew, oh, this is fucking Metal Gear. Because it was on the other cover from the first game. So he bought that, brought it home. And this game, let me tell you, has the most insane story. Like the way it all unfolds. It ends with Big Boss somehow being alive.
Sure.
And also being a cyborg.
Interesting.
So you fight him in the end, and he has like a machine gun, and then he explodes and becomes a massive cyborg robot like Terminator. And
it was hot then. Yeah. Terminator was big.
And you gotta use landmines under his feet to kill him. And then you actually get to fight Metal Gear, which is great. Well, kind of. You have to guide missiles into its mouth. Mouth, quote unquote, to destroy it. But I think the plot for that one was missing people, and Snake has to go rescue them, and then it's a whole Metal Gear plot again.
I don't mean to stop you here,
Yes,
but
yes.
there's a critical thing you were missing
Oh.
for the listeners who may not know about Metal Gear.
Okay. Oh, what Metal Gear is? The actual Metal Gear.
The actual Metal Gear
Metal
is
Gear.
is a mobile
It's a
launch nuclear
yes.
tank.
It's a yes, that is correct. So that could be in my opening. I forgot what the most basic thing what Metal Gear is. It's a nuclear equipped walking battle tank.
Right.
And
So it could launch nukes
from
anywhere
on the earth.
anywhere that it can go. It could walk somewhere and just be like nuke.
Nuke, nuke, nuke. Hence the threat of Metal Gear.
Right.
So Snake's Revenge.
Question.
Yes.
How do you blow up a Metal Gear without blowing up the nukes that are attached to the Metal Gear?
I think all of the Metal Gears you ever fought in history are unarmed.
Interesting.
There's no nukes on them. And you can stop it without actual. Well, let's say it was carrying a nuclear warhead.
Yeah.
You just stop its feet or kill its operator, then the nuke isn't going to go anywhere.
Right.
But
well, unless it has that AI.
if you flash forward to Metal Gear Solid, you are launching Stinger missiles at it. So
right. Many.
Hope that it's not equipped with a nuclear device.
Yeah.
So some years later, we came across Metal Gear 2, Solid Snake. This was back when I had my first computer and piracy was a thing. And
that was on the MSX, right?
Yeah, on the MSX. Still is today. And where my brother took those warnings, like, if you don't own this ROM, you must delete it in 24 hours or they will arrest you. Which was always a fake threat, but he thought it was real for some reason. He was always concerned about that kind of stuff. And I was like, there's this game called Metal Gear 2, but is this Snake's Revenge like Metal Gear 2? I'm confused. What is this?
Classic Kojima conundrum.
Like, what's going on? Like, I don't understand this. And it turns out through some searches on AOL.
Oh, this was AOL time. Yeah. So we were talking 95, 96. Yeah. What are we talking
about? It was a long time ago. Through AOL, we found out that Metal Gear 2 was the legit sequel to Metal Gear.
Interesting.
And Snake's Revenge was like just a fan game. It was basically a fan fiction made flesh. Made it to bits and RAM. Like, there were fans of the series that wanted to see it go on, and they made this game, which Kojima later saw and was like, okay, that's great, you guys. I'm going to do a real one.
but I don't know. But wait, didn't Ultra publish it?
Right. But it was just...
So they published a fan game?
It wasn't like fans like you and I. It was people within Konami and Ultra who liked Metal Gear.
It was like a side project that they did.
And it was only released here in the States.
Got you. Okay.
So it was like a passion fan project because they liked Metal Gear so much. So Kojima was like, oh, that's really great. Like, you guys been basically a fan game of Metal Gear. It's awesome. I will do a better one. So Metal Gear 2, a lot of things and systems we've seen in Solid were actually first in 2. Like crawling through vents or crawling in general was in Metal Gear 2.
Interesting.
And I think the whole system of having only one security card to open doors.
Thank God for that. That was so miserable. That was the worst part about the first Metal Gear.
I'm not entirely sure, but I think that's when the trend first began. So Metal Gear 2, the central plot revolves around some petroleum element, I believe was called Oilix. And Solid Snake is sent into Zanzibar land. There's another uprising happening in Zanzibar land. And his good friend Gray Fox is now on the enemy side.
Oh, no.
So that's kind of intense.
But as far as what I know of Metal Gear, the enemies and the good guys switch sides. Like
Right. As Solid
you don't
Snake,
know, you don't know who's who
as
anymore.
Solid Snake says in the franchise, I think it was in Metal Gear, that war is just like a job where your friends, like you put aside your friendship for doing your job. If that means you're on opposing sides, and so be it. You can still be friends and also be fighting one another. It's just a job to them. It's what they're asked to do. They're soldiers. It's what soldiers do.
Otacon.
Yes. So, and then you fight Gray Fox in a minefield, barefaced, which is an amazing, amazing boss fight. So, lo and behold, after all this is said and done, there's a scientist, there's a new Metal Gear, it's a whole thing, and Big Boss is alive.
It's a big to do.
The big boss is
big
back.
boss is back.
And he's looking like Sean Connery, also.
Connery.
And
Oh.
so I think
Yeah,
all
it's a
the
Metal
figures
Gear.
were after actors that were modeled after,
Right, sure.
but I swear to God, the face for Solid Snake looks like a guy that was on All My Children, which was
Okay.
one of my mom's and subsequently my favorite soap operas back when I was a kid.
Obviously. Yeah.
Because she'd watch it all day long, so I had to watch it too. You know, those snow days or sick days, you have to watch. And then
Price is Right, and
yeah, Price is Right, then Guiding Light, then All My Children, and One Life to Live, and then lastly, General Hospital. That's how you would end
General
the day.
Hospital, yeah.
And then it was time to cook dinner.
General Hospital, I believe, was in the 3 p.m. slot.
Yes.
No, 4? 3 to 4.
Three. And when that was done, it was time to like get
Mm.
dinner ready, laundry, and clean. That was like the protocol in the Asimakis household. So again, I've only played Metal Gear 2 once in my life because it was through piracy. Because I had to get a ROM for it and an MSX emulator for it. So I played it once. It was great because I played it after playing Snake's Revenge. So I was a bit annoyed how this could have been my sequel and I got Snake's Revenge instead.
Mm.
But it was great to play it. So Big Boss is back. You're like, great. I'm going to burn you alive. And so you do with the flamethrower. And that's how it kind of ends. Big Boss is dead. Another Metal Gear squashed by Solid Snake. Gray Fox is also dead. Your buddy, your friend, whatever. And that was like kind of it for a long time.
We go a whole
go
generation and a half.
If it was in dog years, it'd be like several lifetimes.
I mean, if you think about, okay, so SNES 1990, N64 95, and Metal Gear Solid was 97, right?
Yeah.
97 or 98.
Yes, around that time.
Like, we're talking almost 10 years, 2 console generations essentially.
Right.
Well, not really, because I guess PlayStation.
And the funny thing was, to someone like me that's played these games for his entire life, I was super excited about it. But I never saw a clamoring for a new Metal Gear game. And I'm not sure when Metal Gear Solid came out, if it was a big event for Sony or for Konami. It was like, here's our new Metal Gear Solid game, and it was like, great.
Let me tell you what I remember of leading up to the launch of Metal Gear Solid. So, PlayStation had just had a bona fide hit with Final Fantasy VII, right?
Mm-hmm.
And everything was kind of exploding around the more mature, the teenage gamer and stuff like that. And in GamePro, they ran several like preview events and you know, or not events, but you know, like cover whatevers.
Right. And
I remember looking at it, and I remember thinking to myself that this is a game. This is the game that I want to play. Mario is the game that I have to play. Mm-hmm. Like and Croc and like sports games and but I hadn't crossed over to that like mature part of gaming yet. But seeing all of those previews and just the crazy, the darkness, the grays, and everything that they would say about it with voice acting and cinematics and like all this
Tactical
stuff was
espionage
like,
action.
yeah, and you think about like Final Fantasy and like how it was pretty cartoony, and then they had those anime cutscenes, but like these cutscenes weren't anime, they weren't cartoons, they were like
It was like watching a movie.
it was the game in a movie. Like, yeah, it was like it was crazy.
Yeah.
So I knew that there was a lot of hype going into it because of it doing something pretty different than we have been seeing out of video games for at least the last into that generation up to that point.
Right.
I think the first Resident Evil had come out already. I could be wrong on that because I don't remember. I think Resident Evil 1 might have been 98. I don't remember. My years are off. But at least for me, that was the first, I would say, mature title that I saw on PlayStation that I got my hands on. That wasn't like some, like a Tekken or something.
Now, just so I can explain to you how much Metal Gear Solid means to me, I'm going to break it down in several ways.
Okay.
This was the first game that we purchased with real money that we had earned, my brother and I, for PS1. I would later buy games on my own, like FF8. That was my own, like all of it was my money, but that was a shared, like we each pitched in to buy Metal Gear Solid for PS1. Every Thanksgiving, my brother and I play Metal Gear Solid. It's tradition. It's never gone away. We've done it for years. When I was in Greece, the summer that Metal Gear Solid came out, I had my cousin take me to a shop to rent a PS1 and Metal Gear Solid. And I beat it in 2 days.
Jeez.
No memory cards, no saving, just playing it turned on straight through. I have played this game more times than I can count. I can recite most of the script, I think, if it's alongside as I'm watching it. It is my favorite Metal Gear game of all. And I think that no subsequent game was as good as Metal Gear Solid. That is a bold statement, but take a walk with me. I'll explain to you why.
I'm with you, bud. I'm taking that walk.
All right. So, Metal Gear Solid. This story. Let's get into it. So, Snake, our old buddy Snake, is retired. He's had enough of war. He's raising huskies. He's a musher now. He mushes dogs.
Mm-hmm.
And his old buddy, Roy Campbell, who was in Metal Gear 2, by the way, is like, Snake, we got a mission for you. He's like, why don't you eat my nuts, Roy, and leave me to my dogs and send someone else because I'm done. I'm retired. Which, by the way, he looks pretty good for a retired guy. He's all like long hair and beardy in the intro, in the briefing intro, which I think many players miss when they first start playing Metal Gear Solid, because when you start the game, there's the mini wrap up, like, here's your mission, here are your targets, go do this. But if you let the intro or the start menu kind of hang out for a bit, you get this full briefing thing, which is like Snake in a room with Roy and Naomi, who's your other main side piece in the game. Because essentially, Snake, he could say no till the cows come home. He was going on that mission. So, the mission is as follows. Foxhound, Snake's, and Roy's former unit has turned on the government. They have requested $1 billion in cash, the remains of Big Boss, and if they don't get those demands, they will launch a nuke.
Seems reasonable.
They have taken the president of ArmsTech and DARPA captive, who are working on a top secret weapons project,
Mm-hmm.
as essentially bargaining chips. Like, we're not fucking around. We have these two guys hostage. We have the Genome Army, which is a next generation
DARPA
special
chief.
forces army of quote unquote super soldiers. Just a box. And it's Snake's job to get in there, rescue the DARPA and the Armstech president, see if they're nuclear capable, and then come back home. Very easy mission. Very straightforward.
Sure.
Now,
Until DARPA chief
when
dies.
we are first introduced to a word that I think is repeated the most times in the entire franchise. And I left it out of my What Metal Gear Is speech in the intro because I was saving for this moment. And that is nanomachines.
The nanomachines.
So nanomachines apparently can do a lot of things. They can moderate your blood pressure and your heart rate. They allow you to communicate with people. A whole wealth of things nanomachines can do. Nanomachines are a convenient plot device because you can explain away things with nanomachines. There is a line, I'll only refer to it one time, is Metal Gear Revengeance, starring Raiden, where Raiden asks the main antagonist a question, like, how is this possible? And he replies, nanomachines, son. So, sort of, I don't know if that's poking fun at what nanomachines are, how ridiculous they are as a plot mechanic, but hey, nanomachines. So, take that word and just get a blanket and wrap yourself around it, because it's going to come up a lot in this conversation. So sure. Snake, okay, I'll go on the mission. Fuck you guys, whatever. I'll do it. Oh, and also Roy's niece, the lovely redhead Meryl, was part of Foxhound, and she was on the island Shadow Moses, where this whole thing is taking place.
Right, I remember. Yes.
Oh, see, now I'm getting more bits of memory back. So they were testing a new nuclear weapon, and Foxhound was like, "We're taking this, $1 billion, please," and Big Boss body parts. So Snake goes in, and he first rescues the DARPA chief. Doesn't take that long, and
it's like the first thing you do when you get there. You crawl through the vents,
like maybe
drop
like
in his cell.
3 or 4 screens into the game after the first intro portion, and he dies of a heart attack.
Mysterious.
And he's like, this is kind of wild. Just got to this guy, now he's fucking dead. All right, let me just shrug that off. Let me shake it off. I'll let Taylor Swift and move on with my life. So he moves on. And his next target is the Armstech president.
Right.
Kenneth Baker. That's how much I know these fucking games off the top of my head. And he is rigged to a bunch of C4 and surrounded by tripwire. And another series standard walks in the door. It's Revolver Ocelot.
Yeah.
Who is a master of interrogation and has a huge throbbing boner for revolvers. Hence the name. And ocelots, but that's not appropriate for this podcast. So he's like, you touch that wire, this fat guy's gonna die. So be careful. So Snake, and that's your first boss fight of the game, essentially.
Now that's the one where he's like running around.
Yeah, it's a very tight
and then he'll stop and he'll like
very tight.
You'll see the yeah.
And he reloads during battle and says like, "Oh, I love to reload during battle. I feel so alive," and all that kind of fun stuff. So you defeat him, and then as he's about to fire back at you, a mysterious ninja appears.
Ninja Man
slices up all the tripwire so the president of Armstech can't get blowed up, and he slices off Ocelot's arm. My arm, which will come in handy. Literally.
Yeah, handy
as a plot device in the sequel. So there's a ninja now, and there's all kinds of confusion. Oh shit! I forgot something. Oh my god! let's take a step back. The DARPA chief who died of a heart attack also tells Snake that the new weapon is Metal Gear.
Yeah. Metal Gear.
He's like, how did you know that?
What did you get me into, you bastards?
In the past. So
now, doesn't he also at this point doesn't he confront Campbell about it being a Metal Gear?
Right, and
he's
of
like,
course,
you knew it was a Metal
he's
Gear.
like, yeah, it's classified. It's below my pay grade. I'm just here as a supervisor. I'm not here in any official capacity. Yada yada. So he's like, you're full of shit. You're lying to me, but I'll still do your mission. I'll just carry on. So Snake gets lied to a lot.
A whole lot. Throughout the whole series.
He's like I think in the first game, he's like a huge patsy. He's a pawn, really. Only in part 2, he kind of comes out of his shell. And part 4, he kind of has to go back in because he's fucking Snake. So you learn that shit, Metal Gear is back. It's a new Metal Gear. Metal Gear Rex is the code name for the new Metal Gear model.
Bipedal.
Right. And all those same fun features. Can launch a nuke from anywhere on the globe.
But this one, it did have something special. I think it was that it could go in water.
That's Ray.
Ray.
It was
okay.
Yes. Device.
Rex had something special. I think it was
Rex could roll like a T-Rex.
No, it had something like that. It could like climb mountains, or it could like. It had some sort of traversal capability.
No, it was a standard bipedal. Like it was. Yeah. It had a rail gun.
Yes, I remember that.
Could fire high capacity bullets. But it was initially designed as a defense weapon, like to shoot down missiles, not to launch nukes. But we'll get to that later. So Ninja appears, arm cut off. Ocelot runs away. Ninja runs away, who's wearing stealth camouflage as well. And Snake talks to the Arms Tech president. He's like, yeah, it's Metal Gear. We kind of like screwed the pooch. And we did it again, basically. Sorry for doing it 3 times in a row with fucking Metal Gear. It's back again for the 3rd time.
Sorry about it.
Right. And as he's disclosing all the information, he also dies of a heart attack. At this point, it's too much of a coincidence for it to be a thing. Right. So he croaks, and Snake's like, shit, this is not... What the fuck's going on? And no one's giving him answers. And Campbell's like, bro, just keep going on. You're doing great. Yeah, you got some bodies there, some corpses.
The 2 guys you were there to rescue just died of mysterious causes. But yeah, you're doing great.
You know what? Now your new mission is to stop Metal Gear. Like, okay, cool. That's what I'll do. Sense. So you gotta track down our friend Hal Emmerich, or as he's known by Steven,
Otacon.
Yes, Otacon, who has been developing Metal Gear, or forced to at gunpoint to finish its development for Foxhound. So you got to go find Hal to find out how you can stop Metal Gear. Now, there is a security override system in place called a PAL card, which can be used to deactivate Metal Gear.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, if I find these 3 card keys, I can stop the launch. Because at this point, they're launch ready.
Ready to go.
So there's a midnight deadline, or a 24-hour deadline, I think it was. And after that, they'll launch their nuke. So you've confirmed that they are nuclear capable. They can launch a nuke when they want to. Because the DARPA chief and the Arms Tech president gave their security codes up to Foxhound. Now, as a quick little side note, the DARPA chief claims that his code was given up due to a psychic probe by one of the best boss battles ever in any video game ever, Psycho Mantis.
Psycho Mantis.
Your mind.
It's not the only thing he reads.
Right. The Arms Tech president, his code was given up through Ocelot via torture. Now, and Snake asks him before he dies, how did you avoid the mind read? He's like, well, we have mental blockers. Like all of us, like high top officials have them who have sensitive codes, and the DARPA chief had them as well. So he's like, nope. He said that his mind got right. He's like, are you sure you heard him right? Anyway, let's move past that. Let's move on from that now.
Now, what we've learned there is that he gave it up willingly.
Oh, I died. So
he gave it up willingly. That's what happened. Right. See? Double cross.
We'll get to that later. So Snake goes to find Hal in the nuclear storage building, just to the north of the maintenance building, I think. And upon finding him, he comes across this ninja.
Oh, he's back.
Frank Ninja, who seems to know a lot about Snake, saying he's come from a different world, another world, he says, to do battle with him, that it was their destiny to fight. And it wasn't a matter of him killing Snake or Snake killing him, it was just battling again. So a lot of hints and line drops later after beating Ninja.
I don't mean to cut you off again, because I mean we're already 45 minutes into this thing and we haven't even gotten to the second, third, or fourth games yet.
We'll think we'll breeze through those.
You have not once mentioned CQC.
Well, CQC wasn't until part 3. CQC wasn't a term until the third game.
Really?
Yes.
I played that game that much that it became ingrained in my brain.
Was not in Metal Gear Solid. That was in Metal Gear Solid.
Interesting. Okay. So I thought he mentions. I don't know. Didn't he mention going in naked, not having any weapons, and then he said, "Don't worry, your CQC training."
No, that's not a thing they say in the first game. They say all weapons are procure on site, POS, or your SOL.
Fair enough.
That's a lie.
Okay, continue.
So I think let's do this in a more compressed manner, because I feel like I could talk about Metal Gear Solid for a long ass time. So instead of going through a point by point, we'll do more of an overall plot breakdown.
Bullet points.
Yes. So the ninja is Gray Fox. Oh, my guy is alive.
AKA Frank
Yeager, who Snake thought he killed in Zanzibar Metal Gear 2. Like, yeah, we brought him back though. It happens. That's what we do. So it is revealed that Snake is also the son of Big Boss, which is a retcon, first of many for Kojima, that now it's suddenly your Big Boss's child, which when I first played the game, I was like, did I miss that in the previous game? Was that somewhere that I should have known about? But whatever, I guess I'll move past it. Oh, and your main adversary is a guy named Liquid Snake, who has the same code name as you do.
Right.
So just to boil this down really quickly, the end result is that Liquid Snake and Solid Snake are both the sons of Big Boss, but not really. They are clones of Big Boss. Because Big Boss was at the time, when in his youth, the greatest soldier ever to have existed, hence the name Big Boss. So they want to preserve his genes and his legacy, so they cloned him. And Snake and Liquid were born from octuplets, and they killed off 6 to encourage strong fetal growth, which is one of the best lines Liquid gives Snake, is that they were accomplices in murder before they were even born. I love that line so much.
It's a great one.
It says that.
It's great.
And Liquid believes that he is the Danny DeVito to the Solid Snake Schwarzenegger.
Right, like he didn't get the good. He's
the garbage genes. Junk twin.
Right.
He was told his entire life by Big Boss, because apparently Big Boss and Liquid had a very close. Like, I think he raised Liquid in a sense. Snake, right. Not so much.
Well, Snake needed to be trained,
right?
And he didn't think Liquid can be trained because
Liquid was trained. He did fight in like the military, not anywhere here, but like Africa and those parts of the world.
But he wasn't trained in the same way that Big Boss was. Like Snake got the Big Boss treatment, whereas Liquid got the okay, whatever. Or, yeah, let him fight too.
Right. And I'm not sure why he was told he was the trash twin for some reason, but as it
I
turns out, it was Snake who was a recessive twin.
Okay, yeah, all right.
So you oh yeah, then there's Meryl who gets shot by Sniper Wolf, who you rescue. That's a plot point. Oh, and Meryl's actually Roy's daughter, not niece. But she doesn't know that. Don't tell her.
Don't tell her.
It's like 2 games from now. So you rush to stop Metal Gear's launch. You find the PAL card, which is actually you've had the card the entire time for the whole game, more or less. It's a card that has a shape memory alloy, so it changes shape based on temperature, and that's where the one big backtracking in the game occurs. You have to go in the snow, in room temp, and then like a refinery or some shit, and get it like really hot, really cold, and just regular ass room temp card, and you insert it.
Yeah.
And then holy shit, you've turned on Metal Gear. What'd you do?
You idiot.
So the whole time they had no codes. They couldn't launch the nuke because flashback. The DARPA chief that you were supposed to rescue that died of a heart attack that claimed he was mind read was actually Decoy Octopus, who is another Foxhound operative. The only
great
boss
character.
you don't fight in the game with the whole Foxhound unit, who is a master of disguise, who takes in their subjects' blood even to mimic them on every level possible. So he was the one that died of a heart attack. The real DARPA chief died during interrogation because his psychic shield held up and they couldn't probe his mind. So they tricked Snake into thinking, hey, they can launch, stop that launch. Oh, and also Liquid Snake is also Master Miller, who was in Metal Gear 2. He's disguised as your master.
Yeah, he would interject. Yeah,
right.
He would interject a lot.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
It was weird.
Then there's Deep Throat, who was the ninja, who's giving you information. That's a callback to Metal Gear 2.
Almost every single person has two purposes except for Solid.
Right. Right.
Because even and I don't remember if it was the first game but even Campbell had something going on with him. That might have been the second one.
So and then we find out what the whole thing about those heart attacks were. It was a drug called Foxdie.
Yep.
Which targets specific people. So it was programmed for the DARPA chief and the Arms Tech president because they were collateral damage. Like, listen, these guys know too much. So when you quote unquote rescue them, you're really going to take them out for us. Because once you come in contact with them, they're exposed to the virus.
Right. And so this Foxdie was given to Snake.
Right.
Was injected into Snake.
Right.
And because Decoy Octopus had the blood of the DARPA chief or whatever, in him, it killed him.
Right.
Which sucked for him.
Right.
Whoops.
Right. And it also ends up killing Liquid Snake. So Liquid Snake is also a target, and he dies of Foxdie.
Or so we think.
So
Dun-dun.
There's a whole big thing about Snake and life and who am I and genes, and your genes don't dominate you. And then Naomi was actually double crossing you because Naomi was actually Gray Fox's sister, and she had a false identity. She wasn't really Naomi.
Every reveal was either somebody taking a hat off or like their ponytail.
Some of the tightest writing and well-paced gaming scenes ever in a game, which goes off the rails later on. So that's Metal Gear 1 in a nutshell.
Now, hold on. I remember there being two endings.
So you can either save Meryl. That's if you are able to withstand the interrogation, which was you have to mash X while getting zapped by Ocelot. But if you give in, Meryl dies and you have a gay affair with Ocelot.
Fair enough.
But for your efforts for saving Ocelot, you get in the new game, you get the stealth camouflage. Plus, you learn that Solid Snake's real name is Dave.
David Hayter.
Hal Emmerich, Dave and Hal, that's a Kubrick reference, of course, to Space Odyssey.
Of course.
And also, I think it was a fun joke because David Hayter, who voices Solid Snake, is Dave and David. It's the same person. So that's Metal Gear 1. But we're not done yet. If you save Meryl, you get the full ending, which reveals that Ocelot was double-crossing Liquid Snake. That his purpose was to gather test data for Metal Gear to give back to someone named Solidus, the third unknown clone of the batch, who was working.
I got both of these endings.
Who was working with the Patriots, and
dun, dun.
who I think it's one of the most haunting deliveries ever. When you're on the phone with Solidus and you hear like a muffled voice, and it's Ocelot talking to him with his clear voice. And he says, "Yes, okay, thank you, and goodbye, Mr. President." So that was like, holy shit. So hype was riding high for Metal Gear Solid 2. And for a lot of fans, it was a bit of a letdown.
God, I love that game so much.
Not to me, though. I do love Metal Gear Solid 2. Now, MGS2, Sons of Liberty is the tagline, is the subtitle. There's a lot of stuff going on there with meta and self-referential bits, and things aren't what they seem, and there's an underlying hatred for Kojima's own creation when he made Metal Gear Solid 2. I think he felt that people loved Solid Snake so much, he wanted to pervert that. And what he did was, he gave us an amazing opening tanker sequence, which has Solid Snake, who is now on his own, part of a group called, I think, the Philanthropists. And their job with Hal, it's Hal and Snake teamed up. Meryl's still alive. She lived, by the way. She didn't die.
In the canon, yes.
Yes. Their job is to snuff out any sort of Metal Gear type weapon that may be developed around the world. And they get word that the Marines have this Metal Gear called Metal Gear Ray, and your job is to... They're like WikiLeaks. Their job is to expose it to the world. So your job was to go in, confirm Metal Gear Ray's existence, get some pictures, and get out. So when this goes down, your old buddy Ocelot shows up, but he's got an arm now. He's got Liquid Snake's arm.
Indeed.
And through some voodoo magic shit, Liquid can live on through Ocelot via his own arm. To the point where there's like a personality shift. Nanomachines. So the opening sequence ends with Ocelot, or Liquid Ocelot, commandeering Metal Gear Ray from the Marines, who was working with the Russians. He takes it.
It's always the Russians.
And yes, always the goddamn Putin. So, and then Snake, like any sane person would do, leaps off the George Washington Bridge into the water to swim after Metal Gear Ray.
Of course.
Snake is labeled as some terrorist who apparently died in that mission, in the tanker mission. 2 years go by, and a young, blonde, whiny brat named Raiden shows up, who essentially is he's like a vector for the player in a sense. And he is assigned on a mission that is oddly familiar to Shadow Moses. There's a new group instead of Foxhound. It's called Dead Cell. That's being led by Solid Snake. But is it the Solid Snake? There's also a hostage thing going on. There's ransom. There's demands. And of course, they have Metal Gear Ray. Turns out that Solid Snake is Solidus Snake, who was the first-born clone of Big Boss, who, unlike Liquid and Solid, who were opposites genetically, one was recessive, one was more dominant, he was a perfect clone of Big Boss. He was the balance. And he essentially was going against this phantom group known as the Patriots, who we'll get to later on. So there's a lot of weird shit in part 2. The codec is Roy and Rosemary, which is Raiden's girlfriend. But
yeah, I hated that. That was so dumb.
And then they talk about the movies and what day of the week it is, and there's a lot of weird shit going on there. Turns out that's all just an AI they're talking to the whole time. Because the whole game, in a nutshell, to break it down the most simplest way, is a simulation. It was the Patriots' attempt to essentially recreate another Solid Snake. So they took Raiden, who is sort of like a child to Solidus, because Solidus found him as a young boy and he semi-raised him. The goal was to, if we can make another super soldier like a Solid Snake. Dead Cell kind of stands in for Foxhound. You have Metal Gear Ray is Metal Gear Rex, the new Metal Gear. It's all sort of the same exact plot points. It was just to recreate Shadow Moses, in effect. And even Solidus was being used by Ocelot. This guy is like triple crossing people at this point in the games.
Yeah, he's got a very strange agenda.
He's like, oh, I'm with you, but I'm with that guy. Oh, hey, that guy. I'm not with you either, with this other guy. And once we get to the end of this, his motivations are so weird. Again, I think it's like you'll see it's Kojima writing himself into a corner, I feel, as the games go on. So, Metal Gear Solid 2 kind of comes to an end. There's a dramatic fight in New York, and you fight about 25,000 Rays, because it was mass produced at that point. And there was a thing called Arsenal Gear as well, but I forget what that is. There was like a base or a hub of some kind. And that,
don't forget Fat Man. You're forgetting
the Fat Man, Fortune. Yeah, it's all the Dead Cell people. Fat Man, Fortune, Vamp, and Solidus are the core four in Dead Cell. So Raiden's like, shit, like, this is all fake. Fuck all this shit. I'm done. I'm being set free. Didn't go my own way. And of course, Solid Snake is in the game, but he's more of a mentor advisory kind of in the background character, which is odd to me, because I was wanting that solid standoff for like years. I never got that though. So you fight Solidus, you kill Solidus, and the Patriots' plans are foiled. And then you finally get the list of I think it was called the Wiseman's Committee. It was either 12 or 14 members, the founding members of the Patriots. So kind of control the shadow group that controls things behind everyone's back. Governments, militaries, war, the media, it's all them, essentially. It's all tied to the Patriots on a global scale. So Ocelot gets the list. Like we have the list now of all these people. We can find them and stop them. But they've been dead for a very long time. And
Dun
that's
dun
and that's kind of
dun.
like part two's cliffhanger. Like we got the Patriots, but they're all dead. So who's pulling the strings? What's going on? The answer would wait a long time because we got Metal Gear Solid 3.
Snake Eater.
I'm still in a dream, Snake Eater. Which I think it's essentially a Bond movie made into a video game.
Yes.
So this is Kojima again coming back into the fold, saying, guys, I was done after the last one. I can't do this anymore.
Yet he left it on a
Come on,
cliffhanger. Very
come
strange.
on, these make money. Come on, let's do it. Let's do it, guy. So he's like, fine, I'll do it. But we're doing a prequel game because we got to explain Big Boss now and write in some weird plot points that are going to explain things later, lay the groundwork. So Metal Gear Solid 3 takes place in the 70s, and you're playing as Naked Snake,
Naked
was
Snake.
a young Big Boss's code name back in the day.
There you go.
So his initial mission is to rescue a Soviet scientist who had defected. It was during the Cold War, by the way, who defected to the United States. And he was working on some top secret weapon, not called Metal Gear, though, but it was a Metal Gear like device. It was like the precursor, what would become Metal Gear. It was called the Shagohod. But same idea, a walking battle tank that can launch a nuke ish. Same basic function. So the Soviets got him back. And it was your job to sneak in, get him out, and that was it in Russian territory. Now, there are all kinds of peace treaties and ceasefires. So if you were caught in Russian territory, it could spark an international war. So, under the tutelage and guidance of your mentor, the boss, who was Naked Snake's mentor back in the day when they used to fight in the battlefield together, and he was her protege. She kind of guides him through the Russian jungle to get to Sokolov.
She got the hair.
Yes,
I remember. The blonde hair.
But there's a twist.
Mm-hmm.
The boss ends up betraying Snake and her country and launches a small nuclear device at a Russian facility and defects to Russia, more or less.
She frames the
and is like, yeah, I'm with these guys now.
whatever.
Sorry.
That happens on a bridge, if I remember correctly.
And then there's a guy with lightning powers. I forget his name. Kurabauer. I forget what his name was.
I don't remember.
Volgin. General Volgin.
Right. Yeah.
He's
Oh, yeah. He's the beefy guy.
Yeah, he's a big old brolic guy. So and she basically kicks the shit out of you and breaks your arm and leaves you to die. So you essentially don't die and you go back home ashamed. And now it's like, all right, listen, Snake. Oh, this is all under the Commander Zero, who goes by Major Tom in the game. But his official name is actually Commander Zero. He's like, listen.
Don't like that.
He's like, listen, we've an American soldier, the boss, has defected and launched a nuke on Russian territory. And the Russians are blaming it on us. And if we don't go in there and clean this shit up and kill the boss and her old unit, there's going to be like a nuclear holocaust, more or less. You got to stop it. You got to take her out. Oh, and also there's this little thing known as the Philosopher's Legacy, which is $100 billion in assets that were, I think, saved up during the First and Second World War. I think all the nations came together and put it all in the kitty, basically. This secret,
Just in case shit hits the fan, we have
this
money.
secret fund, and also, if you can, track that down while you're at it, because we could use $100 billion, which it just reads like a James Bond plot. $100 billion and Snake Eater and all this stuff. So there isn't much in terms of plot twists. There's a young Ocelot in this game. There's a girl named Tatiana, or Eva, as she's better known by, who is working with Vulcan, but is actually working for the United States. But she was just trying to get the money all along, which she does at the end of the game.
Ka-ching.
Ka-ching, ka-ching, ka-ching. And you eventually, and you fight the boss's Cobra unit, the Pain, which is a guy that covered in bees. The Fury, which is a guy that I think kind of walks like a spider with a segmented tongue and shoots paralyzing darts at you. The End, which is a old man who is in a state of stasis until he comes to life and has a badass sniper. And that's a cool fight. You can actually, is a fun tip for those who don't know, even though it's out there for 1,000 years. If you fast forward your PS2's clock, you can end the fight because he dies of old age, or he dies while waiting for you to fight him.
That's awesome.
It's just Kojima. There's the Sorrow, which is a crying ghost man who, that boss fight was, again, super unique. You walk in a river that's filled with the ghosts of every enemy you've killed in the game so far.
And I remember that.
You have to use like a fake death pill and a revive pill or something to get out of that. And then I'm sorry, Spider Guy is the Fear. The Fury is this astronaut who was all burnt up and has a flamethrower, because
Right. Yeah.
And then he explodes and he has a big flaming head ghost for no real reason. Oh, and then of course the best boss fight of all is the ladder, which there is a 5-minute ladder climb in the game. And as you're climbing,
it's a mini boss.
You hear the Snake Eater theme song. What a thrill.
So I actually must have gotten really far in this game, because I don't remember beating it, but I remember that.
Right. That's after the Fury. And all that's left is the Shagohod boss fight and the Vulcan boss fights, which are, again, a lot like, it's the classic fight the big scary metal thing, then do a fist fight.
Mm-hmm.
That's how those go down. So you fight the boss in the end, and she essentially wants you to kill her because she is good. She basically she was sent to be a fall guy.
I remember this. I've beaten this.
She was good shape of her country. She was like, listen, they're like, listen, you're going to go in there and you're going to launch a nuke and everything's going to get all pissy, but we'll say we're going to kill you, so it's all good. She's like, okay, it's my orders. So Snake is all confused, like, what the fuck? Like, I do all this stuff. I'm a soldier. I follow orders. And look where it got the boss. It got her killed. And for what? For following the president's requests. And this is where the entire motivation of the entire franchise is laid bare for us. The boss has a vision of what the world should look like. When she was in outer space with her Cobra unit and she gazed at the Earth from a space shuttle, she said that she saw one world without borders. And that was her will and her goal.
Who the fuck is she to have such a will?
So,
what is she, Jesus?
Exactly.
Is she the second coming? The third coming? I don't know how.
So, we can take that statement of the boss wanting one world without borders. That's her will and goal. Naked Snake, after his mission, receives the highest rank, and that's boss. But since he's the boss that beat the boss, he's given the name Big Boss. He's the boss to end all bosses. But
literally,
at this time, he's like, I just killed my mentor and best friend, and I love this person. Like, the only love I felt was towards this woman, and you made me kill her. And you sent her to die. Why do I fight for this country? And there's a moment where I think it's President, oh shit, is it Nixon at that time or Kennedy in the 70s? I forget who it was.
No,
though.
Kennedy is killed in 63.
Johnson, maybe? Because it's all very like true to life. So Big Boss is basically given like a Purple Heart or whatever the hell. And he's like, hey, good job for the president. And he extends his hand to shake it. And Snake is like, I'm not shaking your hand, bro. Like, I'm done with you in this country at this point. So we have this idea of boss's will. Big Boss, he interprets that as building an army with no borders and no nation.
A PMC.
Right. And no allegiance to any one nation. We are a nation of soldiers. Outer heaven, as it were. For hire. And we will live on our own terms. No one can bother us. There's no state loyalty. Nothing. At all.
Now, I have a problem with that.
I'm sure you do.
Because if they're for hire,
right,
then they're naturally choosing sides.
Right.
They need to
right.
Like if they truly wanted no borders and no allegiances, all they had to do was just go in and end wars instead of.
This goes back to what it means to be a soldier. There's no allegiance. Like, well, there is, but if someone's like, here's $10 million to go fight this guy here, yeah, I'll do that. But that same guy is like, no, here's more money, fight those guys, yeah, I'll do that. They're just mercenaries at that point. So that's what they really are. But our friend Major Tom, or Zero, as he's better known by,
is ground control to Major
I think they make that
Tom.
joke in the game at some point.
I'm sure they do.
So a different kind of unity. His vision or his interpretation of Boss's will was one world, one border, and sort of enforced loyalty. It was loyalty through control. Where if we can control information and all nations' military and the flow of data and control news, what people see, read, and hear, we can break down borders, countries,
the Patriots,
and unify. And thus the Patriots were born.
Dun dun.
The Patriots got their hands on the $100 billion, and it was used to fund this project.
Which is interesting because Bezos owns more than that.
Right. And the original name of it was called Cypher before it became the Patriots. So that whole thing, the entire franchise rests on the interpretation of Boss's will, because Zero creates the Patriots, which we'll get into part 4 soon of what the Patriots actually
the guns
is.
Of the Patriots.
Yes. And what that whole thing is. And Big Boss's attempt to take that all down. So he's like the anti-hero. So now Metal Gear Solid 4 comes along.
You know what, Andy? Before you get into that, why don't we tell people about our two
Oh my God.
sponsors?
Yes.
We have two sponsors
tired
to
of
tell you.
talking.
Let's give Andy a little bit of a break here, and let's tell you about our two sponsors. One is meltedpins.com. Artist Kelsey Lynn, who has done stuff for this show. If you're watching this on YouTube or on twitch.tv/dual screen streams, this little border that we have here, this funky 90s art, Kelsey did that for us. She's done art for many different podcasts, many different websites. She has a website where she sells original tattoo art inspired pins, buttons, canvas bags, all sorts of fun merchandise. And they're all completely 100% original designs. And if you want to support a small business and a small artist, that's the way to do it. You go to meltedpins.com and you use the promo code or the checkout code NDSmelted, and you will get 10% off of your order. It's very simple. You find some stuff that you're in love with, you go into the checkout thing, you hit NDSmelted, boom, 10% off. Very simple, quick, and easy. So go ahead and do it. All right. Second sponsor. Where is it? Here it is. Ladies and gentlemen, The Minds Behind the Adventure Games by Patrick Hickey Jr. This book, I just got it in the mail today. I had the pleasure of flipping through it for a little bit, but I did read the first book, The Minds Behind the Games, and this is more of that. But this is more all about the biggest and adventure games, the cult adventure games out there, the ones that you remember. I'm just going to tell you about this. So these are little stories about the creation of those games, and but also they're from the horse's mouth. So the developers, the directors, the lead programmers, people like that are interviewed about their experience developing these games. So here's a couple of games here: Spider-Man and Venom Maximum Carnage. We have Epic Mickey in here. Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring, which wasn't the best one. Twin Towers, listen to me. Two Towers was definitely better. X-Men Legends. You have Gary Kitchen's Game Maker. Gary Kitchen, of course, a legend in the business. The Die Hard trilogy, one of my favorite PS1 games.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah. What else we got here? Let me go to the second page here. Let's see, Coffee Crisis with our boy James Deegan, who has been on this show twice, or not on this show, but on the Dual Screens podcast twice. You got Conker's Bad Fur Day, Conker Live and Reloaded. That's right, both Conker games. Pitfall, and Strider, and that's Grand Theft Auto, for God's sakes. I mean, you're gonna get so many behind the scenes tidbits. And you could buy this book on Amazon. You get the hard copy on Amazon. You could also get a digital copy on the Google store. You will be able to get a digital copy on Amazon as soon as they approve it and it shows up. But you could also order it directly from PatrickHickeyJr.com. And if you do get it from PatrickHickeyJr.com, he puts in little bonus stuff in the pages, and he also autographs the books. And I'm going to get both of mine autographed very soon when I see him sometime this week. I'm gonna get both of them.
I got baseball cards in my copy.
Yeah, baseball. Who got a baseball? So go to PatrickHickeyJr.com or go to Amazon and search The Minds Behind the Adventure Games. Just do it. Tell them that the boys at Dual Screen sent you. Do it. And now we are almost towards the end. We have two more games to get through. One I have a feeling is just going to be bullet points because there's really no story in it. So, Andy, back to you. Let's get into Metal Gear Solid 4, which is my favorite, and and I say that very loosely because I only played and beat it once, but I have so many great memories of playing through that game. I know what its flaws were. It was very
it's a fan service game.
It was very old school in its design, but it was almost, you know what it was? It was the Resident Evil 4 to the Resident Evil series, but it skimped out on going the extra mile on the innovation. Like the controls were a little weird.
Right.
It wasn't that great to shoot, but they added that first person mode, but it really was kind of shitty.
And there was that
but
weird,
for me,
buying weapons with like BMP.
Yeah, there were some weird things there, but
there was a monkey.
The story was one of my favorites. The whole dichotomy between Liquid Ocelot and Solid Snake on his essentially on his deathbed was what?
There's a guy and a monkey.
There was. It's okay.
Yeah.
Andy,
Well,
take it away.
I think I'll gloss over the Drebin, which is Guy the monkey, who smokes and drinks soda pop. I think the monkey.
That's perfect.
So, Metal Gear Solid 4, we are
Guns of the Patriots.
Guns of the Patriots. We are presented with Old Man Snake, or Old Snake, as he's known as in the game. He has aged dramatically because it's clone rules. Apparently, if you're a clone, you age quickly. So
Well,
that's the
wasn't
thing.
that because he had the recessive genes?
No, he had the dominant genes. Oh no, wait, that's true. But I don't think it was a factor though. It was just
There was something that was put inside him. It
he
was
ha-
like a ticking
he
time
had
bomb.
the fox die. That was a time bomb.
Okay.
He had fox die in him, and
From Metal Gear
from
Solid.
the first Metal Gear game, and they were unsure of how it would affect him. But it sort of at some point mutated and became like a whole different thing, and he was like a biological disaster waiting to happen. Like he would take out the whole city blocks if he died or some shit.
Death Stranding.
Right. So
That's
the
some weird Death Stranding shit.
the essential plot here is Liquid Ocelot, who is his official name now, because Roy and everyone knows that Liquid's in charge of the Ocelot body.
Oh,
He's
you did gloss over that. We meet Ocelot in 3, a young Ocelot.
right? Who's just kind of there.
But you kind of realize that he's actually kind of an endearing character in
He
that.
is.
Like he's very goofy.
He is.
He fumbles his gun
Yeah,
once, which is
How's it gonna look
shocking.
at Ocelot?
yeah, he's really
That's
weird. But
really,
you know,
really
you
charming, by the
realize
way.
that
It's a good look.
he was part of Big Boss's outfit.
Well, his mom is the boss. They just don't say it outright.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, he was cut out of her on Battlefield, which is insane.
Ugh.
Gave birth on the battlefield.
Okay.
Got the scars
Back
to
to
prove
four.
it. My scar shaped like a snake. It's like Kojima can be so just I want to smack him sometimes because it's like you don't have to be that literal with things. Like Peace Walker, which I won't get to a lot, but there's a character whose name is Paz, which means peace. Like you don't have to do that all the time. Why do you do this? Like, do you think it's clever? It's not clever. It's
Maybe he was doing Rosetta Stone and he was like, "Oh, I like that name."
Stop doing that. He's like the George Lucas of writing. I feel for games, like he needs to be reined in a little bit because then we get midichlorians, which were parasites, which we'll get to that in part 5. So part 4, it's like years after Metal Gear Solid 2. I think it's 4 years or 6 years or 8 years. Some time has passed since part 2. Liquid is fully in charge now, and he's trying to seize the Guns of the Patriots system, which in this future, I told you it was past, present, and future, this whole series. War has been, well, it is to a sense today, but it's an economy basically. There's the war economy.
Yeah.
And there's these PMCs, private military companies. And they just fight wars, like proxy wars, like, okay, well, I'm fighting with Steve, but I'm going to have Bill fight for me. And Steve's going to hire Joe's army to fight for him. So it's like, it's all this weird shit with just.
You're kind of caught in the middle of like, all these PMCs and stuff.
So, and also in this day and age, there's a weird kind of DNA or some sort of encoding with weapons to a person who can use, like, if you're not on the system, you can't use weapons.
Right. Yep.
So Liquid's goal was to seize control of the system, and he controls all military in the entire globe, essentially. That was his goal. So, and you gotta stop Liquid before they can happen.
Got it. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Have to stop.
stop
In by the best boss fight of all time, in my opinion.
Which leads to again, it's all very fan service. Meryl's all grown up and she's in love with, not yet, but she has her own little unit called, I think it's the Rat Patrol or the Rat Pack.
I don't
Again,
remember
it's
that.
this weird. Yeah, there's the big bulky guy, and there's like John Sasaki, who shat himself always in the Metal Gear
Yep,
games.
I remember that.
So
Yep.
the
Oh,
guy,
and that isn't that her
yes,
husband?
so essentially the guy from the first Metal Gear Solid that would always poop his pants
Right.
in the toilet and get sick, um, is Meryl's love interest
Yes,
in this game,
I remember this. Yes.
which it's a sad
Because
blow.
why not?
It's a sad blow because when you see, I think one of the most heartbreaking things is when Meryl sees Snake's old face for the first time. She like recoils in horror, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm like basically dying because my age is accelerated because
Because of the
because of my
nanomachines.
nanomachines and well, they all everyone's got nanomachines now. That's how it is. But his cloned genes and cells are breaking down faster than usual. Plus, Fox Die is also in there in the mix. That's helping nobody, especially Snake. So, and Naomi's back.
I'm a walking nuke.
And Naomi is also like a semi love interest with Hal Otacon. So there's that. But she also dies because let's give Hal more people to correct. So Hal had he loved Sniper Wolf in the first game, lost her. His sister died in part 2, and then he lost another potential wife girlfriend in part 4 with Naomi. So
Just
that
take them all
guy,
away.
just stop. He's the real fucking Fox die. If you come near him, you die. Oh yeah, also a fun fact about Hal is that he was, again, there's more fluff in part 2. Hal was fucking his stepmother, and his father found out, and his stepmother, I think, killed herself.
Wow.
Yeah. Some weird soap opera
He's
shit.
got a lot of issues.
Yeah. Right. But we'll get to Hal's dad in part 5 because he's in part 5. Because why not? We need more like,
Oh God.
you
All
know,
right.
his name is Huey. So you're Snake, you're old Snake, you're dying. It's great. Stop liquid. You meet a character named Big Mama along the way,
Yep.
who is Eva from part 3, all grown up, an old lady. And you learn that she was the one that held you in her womb, and Ocelot. I'm sorry, and Liquid and Solidus. She was like the biological
The surrogate.
surrogate, yes.
Yeah.
Because according to, I think, Metal Gear Solid 1, it was Big Boss's sperm and an Asian woman's eggs. I think they say not Oriental, but that's something along those lines, or Middle Eastern. It's something along those terms, but an unknown woman's eggs. That wasn't Big Mom. She just carried them in her womb. So Big Mom was there. She's like, "Yeah, I'm back. I'm gonna help you. Fuck Patriots." Is her whole MO. We gotta take them down. And the crux of it all, once you go back to Shadow Moses for the first time in 1,000 years,
Great scene.
and it's like a wreckage of a place, and you find a somehow functioning Metal Gear Rex, which you use to fight Metal Gear Ray, piloted by Liquid Ocelot. Amazing boss fight. Ocelot takes control of the Patriot system, and he dubs it. It's so fucking corny. He calls it Outer Haven. Just call it Outer Heaven, dude. Like, what are you gonna change shit up for? I don't understand. It sounds corny as shit.
He's got to take ownership of it.
So yeah, right. Oh, I'm gonna call it Outer Haven. It's like, really? Just if you're gonna be that unoriginal, just say call Outer Heaven then, dude. So he gets control. Snake goes through a microwave at some point in the game. And he gets cooked alive. Face gets all burnt up. Oh, and the main adversary is the B&B unit, the Beauty and the Beasts.
Yes,
unit.
there were four, I think.
4 female soldiers who
Yeah.
experienced a severe trauma in life.
Right, and it
And
like manifests into like
transformed into beasts on the battlefield.
Yeah.
But they're all also meant to mirror Foxhound in some way.
Right.
And also the Cobra unit. There's the Laughing Octopus, I think is Decoy Octopus, and I forget where the laughing comes from. The joy, likely, because it's laughter and joy. Screaming Mantis, which is Psycho Mantis, and I think it's the pain, is who that one reflects. There's Raging Raven, which is the Fury and Vulcan Raven.
I think that was the toughest battle, if
Right.
I remember correctly.
And Crying Wolf, which is the Sorrow and Sniper Wolf.
Sniper Wolf.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that fight because it was a chick in a cyborg wolf suit, which was amazing.
That all of those, I loved
Yeah.
those boss fights. I know a lot of people are like, oh, they're so stupid.
I
I didn't think they were stupid at
I
all.
love the fights. I just didn't like the characters because they don't have the depth that was given to us like in Metal Gear Solid 1. In Metal Gear Solid 1, we got snippets of each boss character throughout the game, and then you got the long story of their life on their deathbed. In part 4, you would have a boss called Laughing Octopus, I would say, come laugh with me. And then you would have a backstory by Drebin for like an hour and a half that
Yeah, I mean, they were just weapons, though.
About. It was like
their humanity was lost,
Right.
so it's not like they couldn't tell you their
Right.
story because they
Right,
were
right.
completely lost. Yeah.
But they did get some back at the end though on their deathbed, but they just had to die. Oh, then Psycho Mantis came back and he couldn't read your memory card because you don't have one on the PS3, and he malfunctioned and died.
Yes,
So that happened at some point,
that was the thing.
which was great. He's like,
So-
DualShock 3, what is this? So,
So you fight Liquid, and then you end up having a fist fight with him on top of Metal
wait,
Gear.
one more thing before I go any further about that Psycho Mantis fight is because the DualShock 3 had no vibration function, so he couldn't make it vibrate.
Yeah,
And
the
that-
6
he was-
axis.
He was like, "What?" So yes, you fight Liquid Ocelot, because that's what you do. You do
Right.
a fist fight in any Metal Gear Solid game. You gotta do a fist fight, and he, at some point, can kiss you on the cheek if you're that good at CQC. Oh, sure, CQC, close quarter combat. That was in part 3. Glossed over that.
That was there.
That was there. So you find out after all is said and done, after all things are kind of done, like Liquid's dead and he's buried now, and Snake in his old age,
and the real crazy shit happened.
Snake, who's like mission accomplished. Oh, and Meryl gets married to the guy who has diarrhea.
Right.
And he's like, well, fuck me, I guess I'm gonna die alone. Oh, but I got Hal though. Good old Hal. You've stopped this global terror from happening, and it seems like you've defeated the Patriots. Because with Liquid, it all kind of died. If he was like the face of it, then it is now dead. Snake goes to the cemetery where Big Boss is buried. Oh, and also there was Big Boss's remains that were burnt up on a Volta at some point in the game because Big Mama had them, and she was like, "No, the remains of Naked Snake of John." Or his name was John Doe, by the way, in part 3. So Snake goes to oh no, wait, he was at a gravesite, but it was, I'm not sure if he was there, but the boss was there at that gravesite.
Mm-hmm.
So Snake goes there to contemplate life and
Yeah,
maybe kill himself.
I think he was visiting the boss's grave.
And maybe kill himself because he's like, I'm kind of a time bomb with Fox Die because of a weird mutation that happened. But I think it was like there was an old Fox Die and the new Fox Die, and then there was a Fox Alive at some point, and the two were like canceling each other out. So it was kind of like how part 1 ended. It was like well, I can't tell you when you're going to die, but you're dying. Maybe 6 months to a year, maybe 2 years.
Right.
I don't know. I can't tell you what's going to happen, but you're dying. So he's like, well, if I don't pose a threat, if I die due to Fox die, why am I still here? So he, I think, goes to end his life at the cemetery. Which
That's your interpretation.
there was a fake out, I think, in the early E3 trailers of Snake putting a gun in his mouth. Like, I'm just gonna die. Like, I think we all thought Snake would die at the end of the game.
Of course.
So the Snake is there, contemplating life, and who shows up is walking Wikipedia, the Big Boss. The Big Boss, who has been
Killed now 3 times.
Now killed. Well, he died twice, and he's had remains that have been apparently burned up. So he's alive and looking younger than Snake, looking very svelte and badass with his little eye patch. Oh, which he lost because of you know, he lost his eye.
It was something stupid, wasn't it?
It was an interrogation in part 3 because you got to have interrogation in these games. It's in all of them, for crying out loud. Right. Volgin was sensing some dissension in the ranks. Like, there's a mole, there's a spy amongst his group. So he tells the boss, well, he's your protege. Cut his eye out. Cut both his eyes out. Like, a soldier is worthless without their eyes. So cut him out. Prove your loyalty. So she goes to do it. And then Ocelot is in the room and he's doing his little Russian roulette thing. He's like, I will juggle my guns in the air and pull a trigger and see if it shoots you. In a way, he juggles 3 guns. Yeah. He pulls one at random. So that's his torture back in the day. And a bullet goes off and it grazes the side of Big Boss's or Naked Snake's eye. It takes his eye out, basically. So it is kind of stupid. Yeah, he shows up, Big Boss, at the gravesite, eye patch and all, looking totally fucking smoking hot for a man of his age who's died twice. And he's like, sit down, young man. We have 5 hours of cutscenes to go through.
Oh my god, dude. This was
I really wish it was like he was
egregious.
Like, you should take a break or take a nap or make a sandwich and get ready for a long-winded explanation, because he brought the thunder. He explained every potential plot hole, loophole, open-ended anything. He explains all of it. And
this was Kojima saying, see, now I can't make any more of these.
It was like,
leave me alone.
It was like, you wanted more of these? It's going to be so stupid when I try to do things, but I'll do it. So you recall the whole boss's will situation that went on.
Yeah.
So Zero, who made the Patriots. Who are the Patriots, you say? The Patriots were the comic relief from Metal Gear Solid 3. There was the paramedic. There was Ocelot. There was the Singent, the weapons expert. The wisecracking, Major Tom or Zero. So this shadow group who held such mystery and intrigue, who could never live up to what we all thought it could possibly be.
Do you think this was an allegory for Konami?
I think it was
people in charge of Konami.
I think it's him just subverting expectations. Like, the answer is never going to be satisfying to what you imagine it to be. It can't be.
Right.
Because it just seemed like the Patriots were some super powerful group. It was just regular people at the end of the day who all died off. So Zero, who knew that one day they'd all just die, he built an AI, which there was one called GW, George Washington, then one called John Doe, JD, and it sort of like came sentient one day and mutated and sort of
As it does.
understood the world through its most basic recurring function, and that was war. So it
Right.
sought to propagate war to keep itself alive, which I think that's how it all went down. And the entire game, all the games, it's Big Boss trying to somehow take all of this down in some way to get to zero, because zero is like the key to all of it. And our friend Ocelot, who was part of the Patriots, who we all thought was taken over by Liquid through his arm, had undergone hypnotherapy to trick himself into thinking he was Liquid, so he could then trick the system, because it was tied to Big Boss's genes and some other weird shit. So it had to be Liquid, not Ocelot. So it was a weird body double mental. He was a mental copy of Liquid, basically, which is weird, but also accurate once you get to what Part 5 does to people. So Big Boss is there. He's like, hey, stop fighting. We did it now. It's all over. And he has with him Commander Zero, who looks like he looks like if you were to tear out Darth Vader from The Empire Strikes Back. I'm sorry, Return of the Jedi, like the old crusty white Vader.
Zordon.
Yes, he looks like that in a polio blanket and a wheelchair. That's what he looks like, and he's on a respirator. He takes a shit at some point, and it flushes. He's like on life support, but he's not. He's a vegetable essentially for years. And the system kind of like did its own thing without anyone knowing. It just got too big to control, more or less. And this idea of Big Boss being this big bad was not the case. He was just trying to undo this thing that Zero built out of what the boss's will was, which, oddly enough, Solid Snake, when he formed the Philanthropists, that is like the closest thing to what the boss wanted, which is the greatest irony of all, that no one got it right, but Snake got it right by accident. So anyway, Big Boss, who also has Fox Die. Oh wait, how is Big Boss alive, you say? Well, I'm glad you asked. So apparently when Big Boss died for the second time in Metal Gear 2, he was all burnt up. They took his body and they used, what did they use? Nanomachines. And they used the remains of Liquid, not his arm, obviously, and Solidus to piece him back together.
Of course.
So the corpse that was burnt on the Volta that Big Mama had was the corpse of Solidus. And since it was the most perfect clone of, oh, that's right.
How would they know?
Liquid, well, because it's genetically they're a match. Big Boss and Solidus. It's an exact clone of Big Boss.
Yeah. No, I know.
So she thought, oh, these remains must be Big Boss. So he comes back to tell you the whole shit just to die, because he has the Fox Die too, I guess. He dies. So he dies in front of the boss's grave. He gets enough strength to salute the grave and have one last cigar. And that's kind of it. It's all it's kind of like a nice, neat little bow. It tries to explain the motivations of people and how things are the way they are.
Why people are double and triple crossing people. And, yeah.
Right. Why there's constant war. But again, it grew like the franchise itself. The stories grew out of hand. And I think it was Kojima's way of saying, this is just, I don't want to do this anymore.
Right.
I'm
Which is
done
no
with
more
this.
apparent than when you play or know how Metal Gear Solid 5 changed so much.
Right. So Metal Gear Solid 5, we'll make it really fast and easy, is a big dumb poo poo face game, which has amazing gameplay, some of the best stealth gameplay ever in a video game. It's very fun to play. It has some dumb decisions like let me roll credits like a TV show when the mission starts, and let me fast travel, but not really, with a 45-second helicopter cutscene every time I have to do this. And you got to call the helicopter. It's got to come get you. But it can be shot down. Enemy see it. Anyway, so the initial thrust of what was Ground Zeroes and Phantom Pain, the idea, the marketing was to sort of showcase Big Boss's descent into this warlord in a sense. Like
Mhm.
he was a soldier, a proud soldier, and then we see him kind of waning at the end of part 3, but we don't see the full-on big boss transformation. And the marketing would say things like men turn to demons and it's the missing link in the franchise, and it was essentially trying to explain the missing gap in Big Boss's history as to when was he like at face value for the world to see, because he was always behind the shadows, take down the Patriots. Um, when was he like the mercenary outer heaven guy? When did that happen?
Right.
The issue with that is Portable Ops and Peace Walker sort of already covered that, because we see him building his own nation. I think
By forcibly kidnapping and brainwashing people.
it was shit. It was MSF. I think it was like Militia Sans Frontier, like Military Without Borders. That was like their name before it was like Outer Heaven or some shit. And he was like kidnapping children and having child soldiers and the whole thing. And he was at the end of Peace Walker, he built his own Metal Gear and had a nuclear device. So that's like already kind of there. Like we see him with his nuke and his Metal Gear, and you can kind of sense, okay, well, this can kind of easily bleed into what became the first Metal Gear game. But for some reason, we got to do part 5 because Konami's like, hey,
We like
you know
money.
that money thing we talked about so much, we want more of it. And
Yeah.
you still work for us. We'll give you a fancy new title and a promotion, but make more of this, please. But this time, we're going to be mad at you for spending so much money on this Fox engine, and then we're going to fire you at some point, and then you're going to make the first Strand game.
And also, if you can, please chain yourself to your chair
Right. Yes, please.
and eat no food.
Right. And also, you can't talk to your coworkers in any way, shape, or form.
So this whole thing is essentially setting up
So the idea
why
is,
he is the way
yeah,
he is.
Again, from a marketing perspective, we were promised. Like, I honestly thought this would lead into Metal Gear. Like, in a perfect world, the third act of this game would have players in the role of a young Solid Snake infiltrating Outer Heaven and fighting Big Boss. That's how I envisioned it, because it would have made perfect sense.
Mm.
And that's like a classic Kojima move. Like, he gave us Raiden when he gave us Solid Snake. He was like, well, you thought you were a Solid Snake, now you're Raiden. So that's a good turn of heel. But I feel like if it didn't happen, it was more to save it for like a full-blown Metal Gear remake in the Fox engine, which I'm sure before he was let go was likely in the pipeline. That's an
Right.
awesome engine. So what we got was 2 games. We got Ground Zeroes, which was the prologue game, and also like kind of like a tech demo. Like, here you go, give us $30, for a 2-hour.
I can't believe they charged $30 for
Yeah.
that. That's insane.
Give us-
Actually, it was 40.
Oh shit! Okay, give us
Yeah.
$40 for a 2-hour snippet of the full game. Because the delay, it was essentially going to be the first chapter or the
Yeah.
prologue, but they were like, "Listen, we're taking too long with Phantom Pain. We're going to give you Ground Zeroes as like a holdover, but we're still going to charge you for it."
It's insane.
Yeah.
I cannot believe they were able to do that.
Yeah.
Like, and people bought it. Like,
And
that's crazy.
that mission is the onset is it's Big Boss, and for some reason Ocelot is on his team. They don't explain how they got buddy after part 3. There's
There's not enough games to explain that.
there's no reason for it as to why they just are friends now. They just are.
We're buddies.
We have Master Miller, or Kaz,
Okay, that makes sense.
because I think he had a Japanese mom, Kazuhira, and which I don't get because he's like, even by the time Metal Gear 2 rolls around, he's still fairly young. So I'm like, this is like we're going back like 20 years from Metal Gear 1 or Metal Gear 2, and Kaz, Master Miller, looks the same age. But
Now,
who
I
needs that?
we don't typically go to the chat, but one of our listeners here
Yes.
is saying, and Mao 2X15, so I'm assuming that's 2015.
Yes.
Says they explain the relationship in Metal Gear Solid 4.
Oh,
why
well, then-
why they're working. Big
Sure.
Mama explains it. At
Okay,
some point.
thank you for that, listener. I appreciate that. See, there's just so much information in Metal Gear Solid 4. I see why I missed that. Okay, cool. So they're buddy as per Metal Gear Solid 4.
Big Mama explains that shit.
Right. I guess I just forgotten about that because it's been so long. Again, I feel like the ending of part 4 is like a whole game into itself, so you kind of forget what happens in the rest of the game. So it's like
Okay.
it all kind of like goes out your ear, and then you hear all the stuff Big Boss says. So I just know this now. The rest I've forgotten. So
Okay.
the Ground Zeroes, the setup is the UN is doing an inspection of your facility because
Of course.
even though
Of
you're
course.
you're an army without a nation without borders, people are getting nervous because of armed militia is forming on the waters in international territory with
Sure.
under no law. So they just want to make sure you guys are doing good and you're not causing any trouble. So of course, what happens is that they decide to hide Metal Gear Zeke, which is the Metal Gear they've been working on since Peace Walker, and put on a brave face for the UN and the inspection. Like, all right, we're all good. Like we'll pass flying colors. But it's actually an attack.
Oh,
Staged attack on the base. On
veiled.
what's called Mother Base.
Of course.
Oh, quick side note, in Peace Walker there was an AI, I think it was called Mother, that was it was the AI of the boss. Because she couldn't just stay dead. We had to put her into
No, nobody could stay
put her
dead.
into a pod.
No, nobody can stay dead. Their arms are alive. They're psychosomatically taking over people's personalities.
Right. So we put her AI. We sort of put her brain into, or I guess a replica of her.
He must have been a big Hitchcock fan too,
Right.
or I don't know. He's
So
Kojima's smoking the good stuff.
and just so we know that the unit that Snake was a part of, or Big Boss, it wasn't called Foxhound, it was called Fox back in the day. So
Right.
the attack is done by a group called XOF, which is Fox spelled backwards,
Oh my god.
who it turns out is sort of they're like the B side to the A side of Big Boss.
Sure.
So if back in the day when Naked Snake was carrying out missions, Major Tom /Zero had this other team called XOF that was like the cleanup crew. It's like if you fucked up, in some way we sent an XOF to kind of like make it all go away. But even you didn't know about them. It was that under wraps.
It was top
Right.
secret. Sure.
So the base is under attack, and the base is sinking, and yeah. Bye base. What can you do? Oh, and our friend Paz. Oh, wait a minute. I think I'm missing one key feature. That you were sent in to rescue Chico, who was from Peace Walker, and Paz.
Who
they
is
were like,
Scott Hall?
right? Obviously,
Chico, Razor Ramon, Scott Hall.
Right,
therefore,
right.
the ipso facto Wolfpack and
Right,
NWO. Got it.
right.
Understood. I'm getting it. I'm picking this up.
So,
I'm making everything's a wrestling analogy.
So when you rescue Paz from the camp, and you're in a helicopter flying away, and you see your base under attack. Paz is like, oh, there's a bomb in her. We gotta get it out. So the medic on the chopper cuts her open, takes the bomb out, gets rid of it. Oh, we're safe. Sew her back up. She regains consciousness. And she opens up the door. I guess you call them doors, right? On a helicopter?
Yeah,
That's
sure.
what you call
Yeah,
it?
yeah.
And she's like, no, there's another bomb in me.
It's in my anus.
And it's too late. It's in my anus. It's too late to get it out. So she decides to throw herself off the helicopter to save Snake, or Big Boss, and his team.
Yeah.
Which is odd because at the end of Peace Walker, you have to fight Paz, who is controlling Metal Gear Zeke, and she's wearing a bikini because it's too hot to stay in there. Just this is why we want to show boobs in video games.
No. I've read about this. It's because she has to breathe.
That's Quiet. It's a different character.
Oh, that's a different character that needs to wear a bikini all the time.
So,
Got it.
As she's plummeting off the helicopter into the ocean, the bomb goes off. She didn't jump fast enough, apparently, and the helicopter goes down. And Snake sustains massive injuries
to his arm.
Yeah, or Big Boss sustains
the red arm. He needs to get his red arm.
He wakes up
like C-3PO
9 years later.
9 years. Okay, so
in what I can gather is Cyprus, because the doctor speaks in Greek, and I understand
Cypress Queen, Brooklyn.
Yes, Cypress Hill.
Cypress. Oh, okay. That's in Queens, right?
Right.
Or is it in Brooklyn?
Yes.
I don't know. Now, time out. So, Metal Gear Solid 3 is the first in all this timeline.
If you're doing a
chronological,
yeah, it's Metal Gear Solid 3, Portable Ops, right. Peace Walker, Ground Zeroes, Phantom Pain.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, and then that goes into Metal Gear 1.
Got it. Okay.
Metal Gear.
But where does Phantom Pain, even though it's 8 years or 9 years after Ground Zeroes, that's still not enough time.
Nope.
Like, what does anything happen in between those?
Snake's in a coma. Things have gone down, but no major events though.
So you're saying Konami has a chance to make another one of these games to explain what happens in those 9 years? They rebuilt
Mother Base in those 9 years.
There's gonna be a game. There's gonna be something. No, that's Metal Gear Survive. There you go. We did it.
That takes place. Actually, yeah, you're right. That's a weird wormhole. There's a wormhole mechanic in that game that opens up. It's a whole reality.
We figured it out.
Yeah. So you wake up in this hospital bed, and the doctor's like, "Okay, you're in for a shock. A, it's been 9 years, and B, look at your arm. Oh, it's missing.
Oh, also you have horns.
Right. Oh, shrapnel is in your brain and your heart." And they chose an actual Greek actor. You know, like, I know that sounds like my uncle doing like speaking in English. I know that guy. Uncle Nick, is that you? So,
Nicholas, that's you,
right? And apparently, it's like the shrapnel is think of it like a Tony Stark situation where it's around his heart. It's like if they
Yeah.
remove it, it'll kill him. So
Right,
we'll leave
sure.
it there.
Yeah.
So it's a hunk of metal in your head, essentially. We can't get it out, but it won't kill you. It may drive you insane though, but it won't kill you. So you are in this bed, and they're like, "Oh, by the way, they've come to kill you. So we have to alter your appearance in some way."
Oh.
So take a look at your face for the last time. And it's okay, you look in the mirror, great, cool. Because it'll be gone tomorrow.
And tomorrow you will awaken.
Then,
Peter
like, days go by, you've had your surgery, it's how you're recovering, great, yada yada, you look fine, amazing. Then they come to get you because they found you now. They found Big Boss. XOF found Big Boss. There's a guy that's also with you in the hospital named Ishmael.
Ishmael.
I guess at this point, Kojima read Moby Dick. There's a lot of Ahab and Ishmael in here, and there's a whole lot of Pequod. There's a lot of Moby Dick in this game.
All right, what happens in this game? We're 2 hours in.
All right, so the let's get down to the plot twist, the contrivance for contrivance's sake, and that is the entire time you aren't playing as Big Boss.
Great.
Evidently, when that helicopter went down and you're in the hospital, Zero, Major Tom, decides, even though he hates your guts but doesn't, decides to protect you in some way. So they take the medic, who apparently had amazing military skills but was reduced to being a medic. Don't know why. And they do some plastic surgery to make him look like Big Boss and to make him think he's Big Boss through hypnotherapy and suggestion.
More hypnotherapy, more
Right.
brain
Lobotomies.
things.
So we now have
And they did that over the course of 9 years.
A body double of Big Boss.
Sure.
So
of course we do.
He can be the bad guy, the guy that has outer heaven and rules the world and is like a main villain, while the true Big Boss is out there doing his thing and building outer heaven in secret, kind of a sense. And I really feel that you can say all you want about Konami and cut content from Metal Gear Solid 5 because it feels incomplete. It feels like it is a phantom game, but that could be intentional, knowing Kojima.
Interesting.
The cutscenes are very sparse. Snake, who is known as he's given a name. Oh wait, he has a name in this. It's Big Boss, but he has a code name. It's like something Snake. The Vengeful Snake.
Sneaky snake.
Something or other.
Slippery snake.
He's given
scary snake.
Yeah, scary snakes. Anything you want to say about cut content or just it's half a game? Ultimately, Kojima's vision was to have you play as a double of Big Boss. And I think the only reason for this is twofold.
Venom Snake.
Yes. Thank you. Because he was filled
Thank
with
you, Mo.
venom. Thank you so much. The only reason for this is twofold. One is to have this cheesy, the player is Big Boss all along. Because at the beginning, you have to do like an avatar of yourself, like make a thing of you, like make a character model, like do the eyes and the hair and the face and the cheekbones and the ass line, which on the surface feels like it's just, it's probably for like the Metal Gear Online game they're going to launch at some point, or the online multiplayer function. Like, here's my online avatar that I'm building and I can name. But no, it was just to it was the actual face of the medic. So if I was to make an avatar that looked like me, that's also now the medic, essentially it's like, oh my god, me the player, I'm Big Boss. We built this whole thing together, which is we built the series together alongside. So Kojima
Mm,
and the fans have built the franchise together. That
mm.
I think is the core message, but I think it's also for some reason he did this to explain why Big Boss didn't die at the end of the first Metal Gear game. Because it wasn't really Big Boss you killed. You killed Venom Snake as Solid Snake.
It sounds like I didn't miss anything
No,
really
you
with
didn't.
Metal Gear
It,
Solid
I
5.
was,
So,
I was the odd thing is that you have in that hospital scene in the beginning of the game, you have this Ishmael guy who is voiced by Keith Sutherland, and it's like, is that Big Boss? Why does he have my voice if I'm Big Boss? Then when Ground Zeroes came out, the medic is also voiced by Kiefer, but with like a lower octave, but it's clearly him.
so I wonder if that's how
So
is that was that also their way of
people knew from Ground Zeroes that you were playing as a double.
hmm.
So it was like not even a really big twist. And I was kind of like hoping it wouldn't go that route because it's kind of obvious because throughout the game, like Vulgan from part three comes back as a weird like fire ghost. Like he's a guy covered in
As you
fire,
do.
as one does, who's controlled by a young psycho mantis, by the way, because let's have that in
Oh,
the mix.
again, yes, of
And
course.
when he goes to like attack you, he backs off because he knows that you're not the snake that I fought years ago. You're someone else. And people always say like, Snake, is that really you? Boss, is that you? They look at you all funny with like these long distant stares. And also Big Boss, who's known to be a chatty Cathy, says like two words in the whole game. So
Just a bizarre
right, it's a very weird
everything.
deviation. And there's also a Metal Gear called Sahelanthropus, who is this massive like Gundam looking thing. Imagine like Rex's head on
That's
a
cool.
robot with arms and legs,
I like that.
and it has a sword that can cause earthquakes or some shit like metal, like a little earth jaggies from the ground. Oh, and there's this guy called Skullface, who is the head of XOF, who was like the other side to Big Boss's coin, who had his own version of the boss's will.
Did he also have his own clone body double?
So no, he had no face. He had no face.
Great. So was there somebody out there with his face? Let's put a
Well,
bow on this because
wait,
I feel like I have learned.
I-
You've explained
I
enough,
have to
Andy.
mention one last thing about Phantom Pain, and
Oh.
that's vocal cord parasites. Vocal
You know
cord
what?
parasites. It's a thing. So you can program a parasite to a certain language.
Uh-huh.
So let's say, and that's why Quiet was called Quiet. If she spoke, she would die, more or less.
Uh-huh.
So if you had this, let's say you had this vocal parasite that was programmed to attack when you spoke Italian. So that would mean if you spoke that language, you would die. So that's how you weed out that language. Because Skullface felt that it was language that unified a people. Like if you came from a different culture, a different background, if you're all in the same place, speaking the same language, that's what brought you together, no matter where you came from. So he wanted to target the English language as a fuck you to Zero and the boss's will. So he had a parasite that was programmed for English, which you destroy, but at the end, Baby Mantis and Baby Liquid, who's in the game, by the way, Eli is his actual name.
Oh,
Take a parasite.
a lot of biblical shit going on in these games.
So David and Eli, they take a parasite vial with them, and they take the Sahelanthropus unit and leave, which is like You meant to have this game as a missing link, and you left so many questions. It feels like a weird offshoot fanfic, non-canon thing.
Too
And
many questions.
yeah, so we're left with we had 4 games with closure, and then this happened, and it was like, why? And then that game was Metal Gear Survive, which is like, fuck you. All right,
Ladies and gentlemen,
5 hours.
ladies and gentlemen, that is
My
Andy
vocal cords
Explains
are
It All.
going right now.
That's Andy Explains It All. That is the longest one we've done. Metal Gear, Andy Explains It All.
my God.
If you want to follow us on social media, you can do so at NDS Podcast. I am at Batchild27. Andy, this way, is at Pants Guy.
Hello.
Yeah, you're on this
I'm
side.
right here.
Andy's
Damn, I wonder
at
if it
Pants
was-
Guy. Andy Explains It All is a bi-weekly show that we're doing seasonal until about April. It goes up every other Friday. We have multiple topics that we choose and pick and choose from. I think we're gonna announce the next topic, but I don't remember what it was. I'm gonna look it up. I have it on.
It has
on a
to be
doc
like
somewhere.
like either a 1 game or 2 or 3 game franchise, because this Metal Gear thing is exhausting.
I don't think it's a game. I think we're going back to a movie
Explain
or
Final
something.
Fantasy, all of them.
Yeah, all of them, please, and how they connect. Hold on, I'll find it. I think it might have been that one, so I'm gonna open that.
Oh, was it Parasite Eve? Or Clock
Yes.
Tower? Clock Tower.
No, it wasn't Clock Tower.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it was Parasite Eve.
Ooh, okay.
I think you're right.
Less insane. That I can do easy in an hour tops.
All right, so
Tops.
Parasite Eve is going to be in 2 weeks. If you like our content, remember, go to twitch.tv/dual screen streams. Give us a follow. We do 2 shows live every week. Oh, well, Andy Explains It All every other week, but we do every Sunday. We do the Dual Screens Games Cast, where Andy and I go over the biggest news from the big 3 companies and a wild card, and we declare a winner and loser of the week. And we also have our flagship show, the Dual Screens Podcast, which is an interview show where we bring on game industry devs and voice actors, just an industry guest, to tell us their story, tell us about their game, their studio, their career, and everything like that. And that posts each and every Thursday. We did over 80 interviews as part of Nintendo Dual Screens, our podcast before we started the Dual Screens podcast. Now all those interviews are part of their own show called the Dual Screens Podcast, and Nintendo portion of that podcast became a general gaming podcast. So if you're new to our content, that is what we do. We do 3 shows right now, and then after Andy Explains It All, after 7 weeks of Andy Explains It All, we go into our next seasonal content, which is Dual Screens Versus, which is going to be a topical debate show between Andy and I and a moderator, a guest moderator. So again, if you like what you are watching or hearing, if you're watching this on YouTube, please give us a subscribe. Just hit that little subscribe button. Give us a thumbs up. Let us know in the comments if there's anything you want Andy to explain to me that he may or may not know about. I don't know. Maybe I'll pick one of your topics. Who knows? Who knows?
That'd be great.
We have 5 more of these to do.
Mhm.
So we have a chance here. Andy, why don't you take us home from here?
Oh, is there notes for this closure, or did I just say like whatever?
Yeah,
it
it's
pops in my head?
just say goodbye.
This has
Bullshit.
been a lot of fun. This has been highly exhausting. I am shocked. I knew as much as I did from memory. I want to thank for the assist in the Twitch chat.
Mo2x15.
There you go. Is he still there, by the way?
Yes.
Mo, I want a full review when we're done with this recording.
Go
See,
back
this-
and
this-
listen to the whole show because you joined a little late.
how I did.
Subscribe on your favorite podcast service of choice, including iHeartRadio and Spotify.
Yes. And yeah, I love this show. I love talking about things that I'm passionate about. It's hard to be critical of a franchise when you're a massive fanboy. I feel like it's a little bit blinders on, but it's when you love something so much, it's also a little bit easy to hate it sometimes. And
Mm.
Metal Gear Solid 5, I was so let down with that one. But great game.
Well,
Great gameplay though.
listener, if you want to see me explain something to Andy, for $1 on patreon.com/NDS podcast, you get a bonus episode. And the episode that we're recording for January is Steve explains it all to Andy, and I'm going to explain professional wrestling. This is not...
This is happening. This isn't a drill.
This isn't just like one pay-per-view I'm going to explain or one part of wrestling.
No, I am
going to go balls deep.
Yeah, and
I'm what professional wrestling
if
is.
If you thought that you were cutting me off at any certain, I'm gonna be like, I have a question. I have another question. What does that mean? And before we go,
yeah,
I just want to add, I would like the listeners out there to let us know what their favorite Metal Gear game is and why.
Ooh,
I am a staunch Metal Gear Solid 1 purist. I think it never got better from that game. A lot of my friends think I'm nuts because they hold Snake Eater in a much higher regard because they like the boss as a character and that whole plot with her.
I think they perfected the gameplay
Right,
in 3. I
but
think that's really what it was.
When I take a step back and I compare both games, there are systems in 3 that were a bit clunky. The whole camouflage thing, the whole healing yourself or having to eat. It's a nice idea, but I like the simplicity of the first Metal Gear Solid. And I like its characters more. The acting is way better. But that's just me. And again, fight me on that.
Fight me.
If you have
All right,
any,
don't forget to visit our sponsors, meltedpins.com. Use the promo code NDSMelted to get 10% off of your order. And special thanks to our other sponsor, the minds behind the adventure games, patrickhickeyjr.com or amazon.com if you want to purchase those. Thank you so very much for listening. It has been an absolute pleasure. And Andy, give us your sign off.
Oh, my sign off is if you see a cardboard box, always look into it because you may find a snake.
Snake Eater. Goodbye, everybody.